the basics can sound boring, and a lot of people don't think that they need structure. All right, friends, welcome back to Market Shares. I'm your host, Tony Blodgett, and today I'm just going to talk about the basics. Every time I say the word basics, I think back to my days in martial arts. And if you've ever been in any kind of martial arts, you know that, at least in karate that I was in, the first half of our class was doing the same blocks, kicks, one-step fighting, the same basics that I started learning as a white belt, I was still doing as I was approaching my black belt test. And I remember thinking to myself about halfway through, like when I was a blue belt or a purple belt, I'm like, are we really going to do these basics every single day? And look, there's a reason they're called basics, but they're really the foundation of everything else that you do in the sport. And quite frankly, the list I'm going to go through with you here today is exactly the same thing. It is the building blocks for a good mortgage practice, and probably a real estate practice as well. I'm going to focus more on mortgage because that's what I know about. The basics can sound boring, and a lot of people don't think that they need structure in what they do. Matter of fact, a lot of people become a loan officer or work in the mortgage business because it doesn't require that much structure. At least that's what they think. They think that you get to make your own schedule, do what you want to do, and technically, that's true. You can do whatever you want to do right up until you go out of business. But there are some basics and some fundamentals that I think that you need to do in order to be successful in this career. And I think that we're in a market right now where if you're not doing these things, or if you're not doing them at the highest level, I would question whether or not you even take this career seriously, or if you plan on being in the mortgage business in 6-12 months from now, because this market is not for the faint of heart. I promise you there will be thousands of loan originators that get out of the mortgage business. Thousands, tens of thousands would be my guess. And the question is, are you going to be one of them, or are you going to be one of those people that struggles, maybe gets a second job here or there, or are you committed to making this your career choice through thick and thin? And if you are, these things are really important right now. I think they're important all the time. The most successful people in our industry, they do these things all the time, regardless of the market. But if you're not doing them, let's take inventory of whether or not you're on the right track, and are you doing the basics that need to be done? So I got a list of 7 of them that I'm going to touch on here today. I'm going to go rather quickly, and hopefully some of this resonates with you. And really my goal here is that you reflect on this. Some of these things you're going to be like, check, I'm already doing that. Other things you might say, you know what? I used to do that, or, I know I should be doing that. I'm going to start incorporating that. So my hope is that you take something from this that you can implement into your business, or get back to doing something maybe that you let fall off when things got so busy over the last couple of years. So the first one is really simple. We've talked about it on this podcast. I talk about it with Dan Keller all the time. And that is, you have to have theme days. So each day of the week, there has to be a theme to that week. And it doesn't really matter what it is. This has been done. The core has their theme days. A lot of people talk about this, but I'm going to ask you, are you following a theme for every day of the week? I'll just give you a quick list of what I would recommend. Look, for me, Monday is all about prospecting. It always has been, and I like to prospect on Mondays. So that's when I would be reaching out to my prospects. That's when I would be looking for new business on Monday in particular. Doesn't mean you don't do it every other day, because I think you should have a couple hours of prospecting every day of the week. But Monday is dedicated to prospecting. Tuesday, client updates. This would be any file that you currently have in process. I'd be reaching out and giving a status update every single week to every client and realtor associated with a transaction that you currently have in process. Wednesday, content creation. Look, we have the whole spectrum here. Some people do zero content. Other people do a lot of content, but not a lot of anything else, right? They're not out there prospecting. They're never meeting with realtors. They're not going to events. They're doing everything behind their social media. And I promise you, that's not enough. Now, it's good. It's a good supplement. I mean, here I am in the studio recording market shares, but I also have it scheduled in my calendar on when we're going to come in and we're going to create content. So make Wednesday a content creation day. So put the time in ahead of time, plan on it, create your content so that you're not sitting there thinking about when am I going to do it? I got to fit that in. It's built into your schedule. Content day on Wednesday. Thursday, follow up on all the leads in your pipeline, right? So we all have, especially right now, a lot of leads that we've accumulated. Maybe you're a branch manager and those leads are recruits. Maybe you're a loan officer and those leads are prospective clients who haven't been able to find a home yet because there's no inventory. Are you checking in with those people every single week? That could be Thursday. And then Friday, check in with all your top realtors, the realtors that you actually have a relationship with. Check in, see what they're doing that weekend, see if there's any open houses going on that maybe you can attend, go hang out for a little bit, meet some clients, so on and so forth. You know, you can also do follow-up if there's anything that's changed with any of the loans you have in process with them. But this isn't really about status updates. This is about calling all of your realtors that you currently have a relationship with, someone you consider a realtor that would refer you a deal if they had one, right? So look, you don't have to follow this list. I'm just giving you an example, but in my opinion, you have to follow some sort of a theme day. What is your main theme for the day? And then on top of that, you still have to time block the rest of your calendar. Like I said, if you don't have any business, your number one job is prospecting because you have no other stuff to work on. So you have to be prioritizing the rest of your time to fit in your prospecting and some of the other things that I'm going to talk about today, you also have to fit in. So it's not just theme days. It's really, are you time blocking and are one of those major blocks of each day a theme that you know you need to carry out within your business? So number one, theme days and time blocking. The other thing that I would kind of add into that one is face-to-face meetings. I think that you need to be scheduling your consultations with your borrowers. I still see so many loan officers right now that are just ad hoc. They get a client on the phone and yeah, when you get a lead, you should have an initial conversation with them, but then you need to schedule a borrower consultation with them. And I think it should be scheduled and it should be face-to-face. If you can't do it in person, then I would do it on Zoom. And none of us have so many customers right now that we can't do this. And if you get into this practice, I promise you, you're going to get more referrals. They're going to be more sticky as a client. The list goes on. So face-to-face meetings, schedule those into your time block as well. So number two, pipeline reviews. Look, you might say, I only got a couple loans. There's no need to do a pipeline review. Well, I believe that having a practice of checking in with your LOA and your processor, maybe not every day if you don't have enough loans, but definitely weekly or maybe at the beginning of the week and the end of the week. And why is this important? Well, when people are slower, what they tend to do is procrastinate. Things slip through the cracks. They're like, I got plenty of time to get that done, but then it doesn't get done. So having that meeting with your LOA and with your processor is going to hold you accountable to getting the things done that you need to do. It's also, and probably more importantly, it's going to give you the peace of mind that everything is on track with the loans that you have in progress so that you can go out and prospect for new leads. Because there's nothing worse than being out prospecting or feeling like you can't go take the time to do prospecting because you got to work on the loan that you have in front of you. So having a pipeline review allows you to have the confidence that things are on track, delegate out the responsibilities that need to happen on that loan, free your mind of that so that you can go do the work that you need to do. So if you're not having pipeline reviews, even in a market like this, you need to be doing that for your peace of mind and to make sure things don't slip through the cracks. Because believe it or not, it happens more in a slow market than it does in a busy market. So number 3 is education. Look, in my opinion, you should be taking every training that you can right now. Doesn't matter where you work, chances are they have training opportunities, or there's a lot of MI companies and other various ways in which you might be able to get some education. And this could be as simple as income calculation training. Things change. We can get better at it, right? You can learn about a new product, a new program that your company might be offering, or really learn a new product that you're not currently using, maybe one-time close as an example, or renovation loans, or some other niche that you can learn about. I would be taking trainings. To me, it's one of the fundamentals. It's one of the basics. Never stop learning and continuing to educate yourself. I would also say, strategies, right? Educating yourself on strategies. If you don't know how to do a 2-1 buy down, if you don't know how to calculate one, I would take a class on that, or I would reach out and seek that information. So you always got to be taking in education. And I know that a lot of loan officers see training opportunities pop up and they just blow them off. I'm going to challenge you to sit in on one of those, because what's going to happen is you're going to take that class and chances are you're going to learn something new you didn't know. And you'd be surprised how when you take in new knowledge, all of a sudden you find yourself in a circumstance where that knowledge is applicable. And it's going to reinforce how important it was that you took that class. But unless you take that class, then you wouldn't know that there was this bit of information that's helping you. So it's one of those things where it's like the chicken and the egg. You have to take in the knowledge first, and then you're going to recognize, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did that because it helped me here, or here. But we blow it off. We think that, I already know how to calculate income. Well, is there a trick? Is there something that you weren't aware of that one of the teachers, the educators putting on this course might put out to you that just helps you put one more deal together that you might not have otherwise thought about? So think about that and make education a basic of what it is that you do. That's number 3. Number 4 is realtor meetings. This might sound like duh, but I know that a lot of loan officers right now are not scheduling meetings with realtors. Look, you guys, you have to have FaceTime with real estate agents. So realtor meetings are going to be really important to the stability of your business. So you have to be intentional about doing it. So when you're doing your check-ins, when you're doing your follow-ups on Friday, try to turn that conversation into a meeting where you can meet face-to-face. And then when you're meeting with them, what are you going to talk about? I think in a market like this, talking about new ideas, new strategies, right? If you took a class like the last one I just talked about, you got some new information, share that with them. Talk to them about business planning. Say, look, I would reach out to a realtor and say, I don't know about you, but this is a really challenging market, and I've been networking with some other folks in the industry about what we can do to get more business. I'd love to sit down with you for 20 minutes and have a strategy meeting about what it is that we can do to get some more active clients in this market, right? Business planning. All of these things are relevant conversations that you can have with a realtor, because you know what? They're just like we are as loan officers. They're dealing with the same challenges. So I think you need to be scheduling realtor meetings and update them, guidelines, niche products, all of these things that you go through education. Take that information, share it with your realtors, but be scheduling realtor meetings. And obviously face-to-face is important, but also virtual meetings. There's plenty of real estate offices that have their sales meetings now virtually. Maybe you can pop into one of those and give like a one-to-many strategy on one of these topics. So number 4 was realtor meetings. Number 5 is open houses. This is where I want to share a quick story. A few weeks ago, I did a Market Shares episode, and I talked about, having to go to open houses, that some of the best people in our industry right now are out at open houses. And I got an email the other day from one of our top producing loan officers, and she confided to me in the email. She goes, Tony, I watched your podcast and I haven't been to open houses in over a decade. Now, she's a top producer. She runs a great business, but like everyone else, she's struggling right now a little bit to meet the numbers that she wants to meet. And so she said, your podcast inspired me, and I was on my way home, and it was between the office and my house. There was an open house, and it happened to be a home that she had done the financing for in the past. And she goes, so, I thought about it, and I just put on my blinker and I turned into the driveway and I went into that home. And she talked to the realtor, and within a few minutes, the realtor was introducing her to a buyer, and she actually got a transaction in contract from stopping by that open house. So she sent me that email to let me know, hey, you inspired me, and it actually worked out. And first of all, that felt awesome to know that something that we're doing here on Market Shares is actually helping people get business. I love hearing those stories. But more than that, what I said to her was, I said, well, that's awesome, and thanks for sharing. But obviously, you wouldn't expect to get a transaction every time you go to an open house. But I said, I can promise you that 100% of the time, you will not get a transaction if you're not at the open house, right? So you never know what opportunities are going to turn up just because you're there. And it is challenging. I remember when I used to do prospecting, I would go out to real estate offices, and, I'd be driving down the road and I'd be at a real estate office. I'm like, I don't know if I want to go in there today. And, but I would force myself, put on my blinker, turn into the driveway, walk in, and often it would be a great conversation that would lead to me getting a transaction. Or I would swing by on my way home. It's 4:30, it's 5, it's 5:30 in the afternoon. I'd stop by a real estate office just really quick to say hi. And a realtor was in there meeting with a client, and they go, oh, hey, Tony, come here real quick. We have a lending question. Now, do you think that realtor would have called me for that lending question if I wasn't there? I mean, they were someone that I worked with, but I didn't work with them often. But I had that opportunity because I was present. I was there. And the thing is we don't know what's going to happen unless we're there. We can say that, well, what's the likelihood of me going to an open house and them just introducing me to a prospect and all of a sudden I get the deal? I don't know, probably not super high, but it's more than zero. And I promise you it's zero if you don't show up. So open houses, you guys, I know it sounds silly. And even, as my loan officer shared with me, she said, it's just something I didn't think that I needed to do anymore. And you know what? There'll probably be a time where she doesn't have to do it. And she doesn't have to do it now. But you know what? She chose to because she knew that there was a possibility it could turn into something. So I'm challenging you to do that. To me, there's a reason it's on the list of basics. It's a basic thing that we should all be doing. Not only that, I mean, it's fun. I'll be honest with you. It's fun to go to open houses. You get to see a new home. You get to check it out. There's always going to be people there. You can talk to the realtor. I wouldn't have super high expectations, but you know what? You don't know what's going to happen. So if open houses are not something you're doing right now, put it on your list because that is one of the 7 basics as far as I'm concerned. Number 6, fiscal literacy. Look, this has been a passion of mine the whole time I've been in the mortgage business, but now it's more important than ever to really know what's going on in the market. And we talk about some of this stuff at a high level here on Market Shares, but you should really be a student of this. And, many of you probably have MBS Highway or MBS Live or, Rate Watch, whatever. There's lots of ways of learning about what mortgage-backed securities are trading at, but a lot of people just use it as like a lock alert. They just want to know when the market's moving. But do you really understand the fundamentals of why it's moving? For me, when I was out talking to realtors all the time, because I was passionate about fiscal literacy and I talked about it all the time, what happened is people would always ask me, hey, what do you think's going on with the market? I mean, people still do it today. It's part of why I have a show called Market Shares, but it started from just wanting to understand. And you'd be surprised that when you take in the knowledge and then can understand it and regurgitate it out to people when it is that these topics come up in conversation, you become like a source for people. You become an expert at what it is that you're doing, and it really draws people in. So MBS Highway, I watch Barry's updates every single day. I subscribe to a couple other MBS sources as well. I like to take in as much information as I can about not only what's going on, but why it's going on, and how it's going to impact the market. I think part of fiscal literacy is using a tool like Mortgage Coach, right? Really educating your clients, not just on what loan program you're suggesting to them, but what is the financial impact of that decision on their short and long-term goals. So really being an advisor and understanding those tools. If you think Mortgage Coach is just a gimmick or something that you don't need to use in your business, well, again, it's one of those things where you won't know until you try it. And you give it to a few people and they go, oh my gosh, I've never had a mortgage person present options to me that wasn't just a fee sheet on what you can offer today, but how it is, this is going to put me in a position that's financially better in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, etc. So really upping your game in fiscal literacy, to me, it's your job and responsibility as a mortgage advisor to be fiscally literate, but you have to build that into your time. You have to make time for it and take in the education. And lastly, industry knowledge. I think that you need to know what's going on in the mortgage industry. I would be reading the Chrisman blog every day. I would be, subscribing to Housing Wire and Mortgage News Daily and these sorts of things. And you might think, well, look, if I'm just a loan officer, I don't really care about what's going on in the industry. But here's the thing, is that when you're out prospecting, people pay attention to what's going on around their industry. So if they're a real estate agent, they're looking at real estate news. And the more that you have knowledge of what's going on in the industry, not just mortgage, but real estate and the overall happenings, the more you become an expert. And what people realize is that if you're an expert about whatever question they may have, chances are you're also an expert at other parts of doing the mortgage process. So I know that it may not seem like a direct parallel, but I promise you, when you can be the source of news, right? When you can be the person who's always up on what's going on in your industry, in the real estate industry, mergers, acquisitions, new things that are coming out. Rocket Mortgage just announced that they're going to have 500 retail loan officers by the end of the year. Did you read that article? What does that mean? What are you going to say to a realtor if they ask you about that, right? That's just one example that came out yesterday. But the list goes on of things like that. And so what I'm suggesting is that if you have the fiscal literacy and you have the industry knowledge as part of your basics, part of the things that you never stop acquiring information about, when those things come up in conversation, you're elevating yourself as an expert. And when people view you as an expert, it makes the rest of your job with prospecting, getting referrals, leads, questions on your rates, your fees, your programs, etc. All of that goes down when you're seen as an expert. And these two things, number 6 and 7, are the things, in my opinion, that can help set you apart and have you seen as a professional in this industry, and it really does elevate your game. So you guys, that's my top 7 basics for loan originators. I'm just going to recap them really quick so you can reflect and say, am I doing each of these categories very well? The first thing was theme days and time blocking and controlling your calendar and meeting face-to-face with your clients. Number 2, pipeline reviews. You got to do pipeline reviews with your LOA and your processor because it's off your chest. You know that everything's being handled, and you can go on and do the other business building activities that are absolutely necessary in this industry. Number 3, education. Take all the trainings that you can. Number 4, realtor meetings. You got to meet face-to-face with real estate agents one way or another. You got to schedule those meetings. Think about the content of what you're going to talk about. But I promise you, they're having challenges in this market too. There's no inventory. They sell houses for a living, it turns out. So they're having challenges. So strategize with them. Talk about ways that you can help their buyers, whatever the case may be. Don't be afraid to schedule that meeting, schedule 20 minutes or whatever, 30 minutes, go to lunch and have a few topics to discuss. But not only that, build a friendship, right? build a relationship with the people you want to do business with. That's number 4. Number 5, open houses. I'm going to just leave it at that. If you're not there, you don't know what's going to happen. You can say that that's a very low payoff activity. Okay. How about you try it? How about you, if you did it earlier in your career, just give it a shot. See how it goes. You're probably going to have fun. You're going to check out some cool houses, and you never know what's going to happen. But we know what's going to happen if you don't go, and that's nothing. The last 2, fiscal literacy and industry knowledge. There you go, guys. Take inventory of what it is you're doing. I hope that was helpful. If you took one thing away from this quick video, give it a thumbs up, and let me know down below which areas here do you think are most important, or if there is a basic fundamental that I left off of this list, let us know down in the comments. And if you like this content, please let your friends in mortgage and real estate know about the Market Shares podcast. I would sure appreciate it. And like and subscribe so that you don't miss our episodes that come out every single Friday. Until next time, take care.